Alright, I'm Joshua Kemble, and this is my vloggings. Let me turn down the AC a little bit so it's not super loud. I'm on my way to work, where I work as a full-time art director, and I've been doing art direction for about 8 years. I've also been doing graphic design and illustration professionally for about 20 years. And when I'm not doing graphic design, illustration, or working on art direction, I am working on graphic novels. Graphic novels like Two Stories, which is an autobiographical comic that I did about my life, and I'll probably talk a little bit about a section of that, 'cause something in my life really recently relevantly happened that kind of ties in with that. But it's an autobiographical comic that kind of documents my journey learning how to deal with depression as a young adult, and also learning how to navigate caregiving for somebody with panic disorder, as well as you know, basically talking about like a childhood growing up in a Christian school and kind of the hypocrisy you witness, playground politics, fun things like dressing as Indiana Jones for a year before at school, before cosplay was even a word. And yeah, like fun stuff like that. And you can get that on Amazon.com. I also have a book that's currently out called Jacob's Apartment that is about the kinds of questions that can shake even the strongest of faith. It follows the story of two roommates who basically, if you took like Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind and Ghost World and you kind of put them in a blender, and you like the flavor of that, that book would be for you. It's 130 full-color pages a graphic novel that basically tells the story of two young adults seeking identity and purpose, and dealing with losing a family member to cancer, as well as you know, learning how to navigate young relationships. And it has dreams and reality kind of interweaving. And I'd like to get more into specifics on that, but I want to keep the pitch a little short. So you should pre-order that. And I actually, at this point, it's not pre-order. It's been out for a month. Go to your local bookstore and ask that they carry Jacob's Apartment. It's available through Diamond, and it's an independent book that I poured about 5 years of my life into. I'm really proud of it. And apparently, according to my publisher, the first month of sales has gone incredibly well for an indie book. So keep that up, you guys. Like, whatever you are doing out there, like you just going to a comic shop and asking that they order Jacob's Apartment, you going to a local bookstore and asking that they carry it, it's made a difference in sales. And I have a strong suspicion a lot of that is generated from you guys in the community. And I just want you guys to know you have power. You have power in like dictating what is going to work and sell and move in the indie comics sphere. So yeah, so if you haven't, make sure you've done that. And I appreciate if you guys have done that. Thank you. It really means a lot, and I think you'll enjoy the book. At the end of the day, I'm trying to make really good books, and so I think that you will not regret if you pick up my books. Like, I think both books I'm proud of. There's not really sections of them that I feel like, oh no, these aren't great. It's like, no, these are the best works that I've made. And I'm currently working on the next one, which is Not Death But Love, which is a book for West Margin Publishing. And that's what I've been talking about a lot recently, because that's like a 230-page graphic novel that we're trying. It's going to be released in 2024, but I'm trying to, by April of 2023, have the entire book wrapped. And we're you know, just kind of crossing the threshold of page 26. So there's about 204 pages left to go. Whew. Which is going to be a little tough to navigate and make happen, but we can make it happen. Anyhow, today I just wanted to mention that I mentioned this on Artcasters. We had a really great conversation with Jim Lujan. I always appreciate having him on. And honestly, Jim is just an inspiration. Like, he's a very inspiring, talented animator, and also his output is just insane for like the amount of projects that he puts out. And he's a brilliant animator and writer, and just one of the funniest guys on the planet. I would recommend checking that out. And make sure you guys are following Jim Lujan. Like, what he does is amazing and unique, and I don't think there's a lot of people out there with the capacity to kind of output like the amount of animations and the amount of stuff that he is able to do. So let's see here. I found out 2 days ago my dog got super sick. I showed him on stream a couple, like maybe 4 days ago. He's fine. Great condition. He's like a 15-year-old dog. He's an old pug. But then like 2 days ago, like his organs just randomly started shutting down because of age. And so we had to put down our dog. And I've been thinking about our dog. Now this is like a bittersweet thing. Like, I've lost pets before. Particularly because my wife and I will tend to do rescues, or, you know, and we have dogs that will kind of have like for a long period of time. But this is a dog that we got probably when it was a couple months old. I forget how old. He was like maybe 4 months old. And we've had that dog for about 15 years of our lives. And so he was, you know, like, when we had to lose him, it was kind of time for him. Like, so it's not, this post isn't like a sympathy play, and it's definitely not a scenario where I'm like broken up about death any more than I usually would be. And actually it's one of those few occasions where like I'm just glad he, you know, as a dog, like, didn't suffer. And if you guys are listening to this and you're like, he's talking about a dog, how corny. I get it, but I do think there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. One is, death sucks. Death sucks. Like, if it's an animal, if it's a human, it just is a terrible part of this world, and it's one of the primary reasons I'm a believer, right? Is like the idea that I don't buy, like, I've been in scenarios where people try to say that death is like part of the circle of life, or they try to justify it or try to make it a pretty wonderful thing, and it's not. It just taints everything. Like, death is just not, death makes what we do here very urgent, but it does not, I'm not going to buy anyone saying that it's a good thing, that, like, you know, I don't know, it's like trying to accept that entropy is necessarily a good thing. I don't like that about life. I don't think anyone does. I think kids in particular are very hip to this, where they just, you know, and I had to explain this thing to my son, and I'm like, yeah, it's just not, you know, I walked him through it as you do as a parent, but at the end of the day, like, death just isn't right. It's a corruption of our system. And I've never heard a philosophy that compelled me to believe that there was something beautiful about death. There's something very beautiful about life, and anyhow, so that's number one. Number two, relating to comics, what I've been thinking about is just the fact that CK is kind of a big character in Two Stories Book 1. That's my dog. We named him CK Dexter Haven, and we named him that after a movie with Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart, where Jimmy Stewart's character gets drunk and ends up like kind of running through the house saying CK Dexter Haven, like calling for Cary Grant's character. And my wife and I thought it would be awesome to kind of call a dog that, because how funny would it be if your neighbors were just running around like Jimmy Stewart saying CK Dexter Haven, which of course his name ended up being shortened to CK, and then kind of defied the whole purpose of it, because people would think we named him after like Calvin Klein or something. But anyhow, he's a good dog. He was a nightmare of a dog too. He was like food obsessed and crazy. We even had him, like when he was little, we took him in for training, and the trainer literally told us, yeah, this is just one of those dogs that's just not, like, he's not going to get trained. Like, he's just going to be a really badly behaved dog. However, he was also really sweet and had like, I don't know, he was like a very tender dog. Like, he never had a mean bone in his body. I never saw him get disgruntled or upset at another dog. Like, he was just in general like very good-hearted, even though he would be a pain in the ass sometimes. And to be honest, I related to that dog because I feel like he's kind of like me. I don't think I tend to be mean. I think I tend to be very sweet and kind to people, but I can drive them nuts because I have a tendency to interrupt people, to talk over people, and I'll get like rigidly obsessed with routine on things, and sometimes that just drives people nuts. And so I kind of related to CK. And then also he was like my little art buddy. Like, he would hang out with me, you know, late nights, many late nights, as I was building at like some of the most fundamental times of building my career, especially in art. And so I definitely will have a special place in my heart for that dog. But I was also thinking about the things in our lives that influence our art. And this got me to just kind of wondering, what other things in our lives currently, like, you know, do we have that are influencing and affecting the art we make? And are we, or am I, valuing those things while they're here? Because those things will be gone quite often. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And I've also been thinking about how blessed and fortunate I am to have the things in my life and the people in my life that are so meaningful, even when sometimes, like CK, you know, they're kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. But it's like, what, you know, I don't know, it's just something I've been thinking about, and I'm not even sure where that goes. I just think that there's a few things. One is, I don't think death is acceptable. I mean, I accept death as a reality, but I don't think it's an acceptable thing in any scenario. I just think it's a terrible thing. I know, hot take, you guys, death is bad. But I don't know, like, one of the things I like about my own philosophy is that I accept that it's not right. I don't have to justify something that I think is inherently, observably, emotionally, we just know isn't right. It's a hard thing for human beings to accept. So there's that. Number two, just how neat it is that even a dog, like, can impact an artist and have like a real effect on a story. And I had almost forgotten that I had written CK into 2 stories, and that he was kind of a primary character. And so it's just been an interesting thing to kind of think about. I'm not trying to kind of guilt people about my dog's death or anything like that. I think that that is part of life. But I also think it's like, it's just interesting to think about what the things are in your life, or the people in your life that are influencing your art, that, you know, may not be around forever, and are you valuing those things? I will say this, I finished the page 26 of Not Death But Love, and then tonight I plan on doing roughs and thumbnails for the next 6 pages. I'm trying to do these in 6-page batches. And I'm really excited about where the story is going to go, because I think there will be some other location changes. I think there's a bit of a crowd scene coming up, which I'm dreading a little bit, which I think is going to be at a market. And but I also like, I also am so thankful, and I know I keep saying this, but it's like I am kind of stunned that Jacob's Apartment so far is doing pretty good numbers, and I have to try to keep that momentum. So my goal needs to be to get back on sending out one press release and one and reaching out to stores. I need to get back on reaching out to stores because I have no signings set up. And I also need to book LA Comic-Con if there's still space available. That's something, it's funny, I've been kicking a lot of these things that I don't like doing for the things I like doing. And it relates a lot to the topic that we had on Artcasters, where it's a lot more fun to be in the thick of it and making the thing, quite often more than talking about the thing. Because as an artist, and I was thinking about this after the fact of my conversation with Lujan and of course Corey Kerr and Scott Cirkland. And the one thing I don't know if we got into was like why? Like why psychologically do most creatives I know, we love the act of creation and the marketing is just a freaking nightmare. And I was thinking about it, and I think it's, I couldn't articulate it very well. I think I was trying to, and then I probably derailed the whole show. But I think that what I'm thinking in regards to that is, when you make art, it is kind of necessary, I think, if you're aiming for authentic, true art. And that can be authentic, true art of any genre, any style. I think authenticity is something that is like required of good art. And I think when you are being authentic, there's a certain amount of pouring your soul into your work. And part of pouring your soul is taking your energy, your focus, your love, and kind of putting it into the work. And to make art, you really have to do that and be engaged with it. Like you have to, like when you're crafting a story, you have to get in the story, feel all the emotions of the story, think about the emotions you're trying to convey with the story. Start thinking about symbolism that you want to have in a story. And there's all this thinking that you're actively doing in the process of making the art. And so it kind of, by necessity, requires engagement to make the kind of art that at least the people I was on the panel or the show Artcasters with yesterday make. So because you do all of that, then after the fact, after it's made, it's almost like, this is going to be a little contentious, but I'll say it's almost like sex, right? Where it's like, there's all this buildup and getting there, and then finally, once you're done, there's release, and that's it. It's hard to like. That's a bad analogy, but I'll skip from that so it doesn't get too explicit. But my point is just like when you put a lot of energy into something and then it's finally done, there is a feeling of finality to it. To the extent we're going back and having to reverse engineer what you did, and also having to explain all of that soul-pouring process is very exhausting, and it's less exciting than the first time. The first time you do the art and you do all that thinking, it's like it's much more exciting because you have to be. So that's just what I've been thinking is like that must have something to do with it. That must have something to do with why it's so much more fun and it's easier to be motivated to see the project through because it requires so much presence. And then I think why it's so hard to market and promote it is that requires an amount of reverse engineering and a like after the fact kind of engagement that is just inherently less engaging. Anyhow, I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. I'm gonna basically go because my phone holder seems to have fallen apart and I need to drive. But yeah, that's just the thought, and I will see you guys on the next live stream or vlog. But let me know your thoughts. All right, bye.